So now we're going to get into some of the interactions that organisms can have together. Now we were talking about competition for the most part. We're talking about finding your niche, finding your place in a given community or a given environment. But now we're going to look at some of the interspecies relationships, basically the relationships of different species. And so we're going to look at things like symbiotic relationships, predation, so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and look at the first one, which is predation, where one species just straight up eats the other. And so that can be things like carnivores and herbivores and plants, and parasites and hosts. Now, if you are getting eaten, you have less reproductive success because you've lived a shorter life. Your life was basically cut short early. And so it's a very strong selective force. When you are prey, you have to develop a defense to make sure that you're not eaten. And the predators are going to co-evolve to have better sensory perception or physical abilities or characteristics to catch you. So it's like a cat and mouse, quite literally, cat and mouse game, where the prey are constantly evolving to try to outrun, figuratively speaking, outrun the predators, and the predators are trying to evolve to catch up. And so what are some of the defenses you can have if you are prey? Then you can have a few. You can have mechanical defenses, so things like quills, or physical structure, so something like a hard shell, spikes, spines, things like that can help protect an organism against predation because you're not going to be easy to consume. You're going to potentially injure the predator. You can have chemical defenses, so things that make you poisonous or make you taste gross to a predator. They'll either spit you out or they will die or get sick from eating you, so they'll learn to not eat you. There's also warning coloration. So warning coloration and camouflage, the last two here, are kind of almost like opposites in a way. Warning coloration is basically you're very brightly colored, you're very easy to spot. And by being so easy to spot, that's a warning. That's telling predators, hey, I don't need to hide because I'm dangerous to you. I'm toxic. I'm gonna make you sick. I'm gonna poison you, basically. So that coloration that's really bright and really kind of out there tells the predators, okay, you're too easy to spot. That's too good to be true. You're probably gonna hurt me, right? You're gonna poison me or something. And then camouflage is just what we call cryptic coloration. Coloration that's gonna allow you to blend into the background. So, and this can be coloring, this can be shape, this can be various things like that, like body size, body shape or structure. Think like a stick insect or a praying mantis, right? They have the coloring of browns and greens to blend in with the natural background, and they're very long, lean, kind of grass or stick-like in their shape. And so that's going to allow them to blend in with their surroundings and avoid predation simply because they're just hard to find. There's also behavioral defenses that reduce predation. So you can hide or you can escape. There's a various number of strategies when it comes to this. A lot of times it comes down to safety in numbers. So if you can hide, that's great. If you can outrun your predator, that's fantastic. But one thing that a lot of different prey will do is they will work in large numbers. So like schools of fish or herds of animals traveling in large numbers. It makes them appear more threatening in some cases to the predators, because if you have like a large herd of like bison or water buffalo or zebras, right, that's a bigger risk to the predator. It also means that you just have to outrun the slowest one, right? So if you are in the middle of the school of fish, you're probably not going to be picked off. The ones on the outside of the school will probably be eaten by the predator, or those who are slower and in the back may be eaten by the predator instead, right? So a lot of times you just simply have to be faster than the slowest of your own species because they're the ones who are going to get eaten. There's also fighting back. Some prey species will straight up just fight back. So a good example is this bird you see here, the fulmar, which straight up will just projectile vomit at the intruders. So things like vomit, there's lizards that will shoot blood from their eyes. A lot of like amphibians will urinate because they're trying to make they're trying to fight back, and they're trying to make themselves seem gross and disgusting and a problem basically for that predator. When I worked with the amphibians in the disease ecology lab that I worked in, I would have to handle these toads and salamanders all the time, and the toads had a very big habit of urinating on my hands every time I picked them up because they thought that I was a predator. Right? Even though I had nothing to do with that, I was not going to eat them. I was simply giving them a cleaning and then giving them crickets to eat. They still thought I was a problem and would urinate all over my hands. Another type of relationship is parasitism. It's kind of like a predator-prey relationship because the parasite is going to invade the host, and in this type of relationship, one partner is going to be harmed and the other benefits. So it's not as straightforward as the predator-prey relationship where the predator will eat the prey, which then in turn kills the prey. This is kind of a slower progress, and the host doesn't necessarily die, but they do face harm. And parasites can be various things. We put viruses up here because they're obligate parasites. They have to have a host cell, although they're not living. But it also includes different bacteria, protists, plants, fungi, even animals. So any type of organism can potentially be a parasite. We find parasites in all different categories of life. And what they can do, right, besides just taking resources from the host, is in some cases they can actually induce abnormal behavior in the host to ensure the spread of the parasite. Right? So a good example of that, well, there's a few examples of that. A really good example of that is the guinea worm in humans. This is a parasitic worm that infects humans only. And that's another common thing you'll see with parasites, is that they tend to affect a very particular host. They're very specific. But with the guinea worm, they are found in contaminated water, and when a human drinks that contaminated water, then the worm gets into their body. It will then grow and develop and burrow its way through the tissue found in the legs. And so it will induce abnormal behavior in the human by creating a blister that burns in the leg. So there's like a open sore, open blister in the leg, and it really, really hurts. And so if it's burning, you're probably going to go dip your leg in water to have a cooling effect. Well, that's exactly what the parasite, this worm, wants you to do, because once you go and put your leg in water, it's going to be able to release its offspring into the water, contaminating that water source, and then the cycle continues, right? When someone comes by later on, they drink some of that water, now they're infected. So parasites have a little bit of control, so to speak, over their hosts, because they want the host to do a particular thing to help ensure the life cycle of the parasite continues. Another form of relationship organisms can have is mutualism. This is symbiotic because both parties benefit. So examples are the lichens that we talked about. Remember I said we would talk about these guys again. These guys are a combination of a fungus and an algae. It also includes the legumes like peanuts and nitrogen-fixing bacteria, as well as flowers and pollinators. Everyone involved gets a benefit out of it. No one is getting necessarily hurt. And so it's kind of like just a helping hand that each person or each organism is providing for the other. Commensalism is another type of relationship that's also symbiotic, where one benefits and the other has really nothing. There's no loss or gain for the second party. It just kind of doesn't really do much. So this one is pretty just straightforward. Someone's getting a benefit and the other one probably doesn't even notice that the first organism is even there. So I know we're kind of stopping at a weird point here. I'm not going through this entire slide because that's going to be in the next video. But just keep in mind the different types of relationships that organisms can have and how they interact together.